with Bob. Welcome back to Normal Program. So I wanted to address something that I was speaking to my uncle about a couple of days ago, and he's incarcerated at this moment in time. He actually has a life without the possibility of parole sentence, and at some point during my incarceration, me and him had actually linked up and became cellies. Now, I hadn't seen my uncle prior to this probably for 20 something, 30 something odd years. Meaning, I think the last time I was on the streets with him before he committed his crime and we came into contact with somewhere around when I was age 7, 8, what have you. But that being said, fast forward, he gave me a call from the pen. He's still in there, trying to get out, do what needs to be done, and hoping to see higher ground. But what he did was he asked me a question about whether I actually had been in contact with certain folks that were in them stoops when I was in there, and who else I had, touched bases with since I've been out. And I was telling them not really anybody. I mean, there's been some cats that didn't call me from the pen, and so, I tapped in. Hence, moving forward, I do want to be able to give some interviews and give them some playtime so they can speak on some of the things that they're going through. They can inform folks about what's really going on behind the walls and just kind of enlighten you to uh, what folks up in them stoops be really having on their minds. But anyway, that being said, it got me to thinking. And what I was thinking about is the people that I used to function with prior to, homies and all. I don't know them dudes no more. And that just says that at the end of the day, folks got to really start taking into consideration who is relevant in your life and if you should even be entertaining rekindling that flame, kindling that flame, or keeping the line moving. And that doesn't mean that you have any less love for the, people that you used to deal with. But it just means that at the end of the day, it's not really relevant for me at this stage of my life to be reaching out to you, to be trying to embrace and say, hey, yeah, I'm home, all of this type of stuff. Because then you start finding yourself functioning in a certain type of way where, you know, it's not serving your best interest. Being back out in the community and trying to stay focused and take care of your family and, provide just a good foundation moving forward for success, you can't be, reaching out and just embracing somebody based upon a name, or based upon, the fact that, we used to run the streets together. That right there, will sour your position. And some folks, typically you've outgrown them. And you have to make sure that you recognize when that has been the case. This is not a big me, little you type scenario, but you've outgrown the relationship that you've had with them. Or they've outgrown you. Um, for me, there's a lot of people, I mean, now they have kids. They, actually are off into things that I may not like. They may be into something that is in alignment with where I am and what it is that I'm doing. But for me to not know this already and then still nevertheless try to reach out just based on the fact that I knew you from before, that's a problem. And I say something, and this is um, stretching this further. And but Nipsey, just speaking on Nipsey Hussle, I don't know that man, and he was part of the functions that I was actually into, not on the same side of the tracks, but still nevertheless. Um, But he stayed reaching out. He stayed in his community trying to do for those who otherwise wasn't in the position that he had become to be in. And he had outgrown them. But nevertheless, he was still trying to keep that flame, that they had from prior to. Now, even though, he didn't go through an incarceration or anything like that and move on and out, he still had actually got to a point in his life to where it is that this man's a millionaire. You're a millionaire functioning around cats that really ain't seeing that type of money. They not seeing that type of success, celebrity, so on and so forth. You bringing that to the table for them. You know what I'm saying? And not that you ain't got no ballers in your neighborhood, but they ain't touching the type of money that this man is touching. And his mindset was on a whole different level. And I didn't know this about that man, up until the point that he passed away, because I had heard his name before, but I wasn't listening to his music, and I didn't know that he was, tapped in a way in which that he was. So I salute that man for all of the things in which that he has been able to do, even after his passing, you know. Um, but that's a true testament to recognizing that the crabs in the barrel type scenario where folks will pull you into their shenanigans just based on, and or they'll ask you your opinion about something or get you involved into something that you really know nothing about. You know what I mean? It's people out here on these streets that be speaking about what be going on up there in the pen and saying, this cat was telling, or all of these whole type of things wasn't on the yard when this was supposedly going on. Not knowing that you got dudes that manufacture information that actually will put certain stuff out there in order to, soil somebody's character. All of that type of stuff goes on. So you have to actually take into consideration who you put yourself around, and what that really means to where your life is headed. You know what I mean? Or what the outcomes that you actually want out of life, or out of what it is that you're actually doing at that moment in time. So when my aunt was asking me this again, I'm like, you know what? Really, even them dudes that was, up in them suits with me, which the person that he was asking me about, realistically, I didn't really function with this dude. I didn't know this dude. This was one of his folks. You know what I'm saying? And my aunt, he was from the other side of the tracks, if you will. But the dude was cool. You know what I mean? In the penitentiary, you don't really have that. It's black love type shit. And I'm on that. You know what I'm saying? I support my community. I support individuals that are actually, frontline vanguard for the community in and of itself. Not that stupid shit that we grew up on after we done got halfway up the ladder and picked up on some beefs that even actually was issued out prior to us ever even stepping in the game. But I embrace those individuals who got a little bit of, insight on them, and that they're trying to curtail the bullshit that goes on in some of our communities, just to say the least. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to touch bases with that, y'all, because a lot of people be thinking that you solid if you get out on these streets and start touching bases back with your homies just on the script that they was your homies. Nigga, they was your homies. They end up maybe your enemies at this moment in time in your life because you don't know them no more. You don't know what they into. You don't know what type of beefs they did now inherited just based on their functions. And even if and so they are good people, what I'm saying is that in essence, you don't know where they are at this time in their lives, and you may be setting yourself up for failure just based on trying to uh, embrace this loyalty thing that really has nothing to do with loyalty. It has something to do with familiarity, which is very different from what loyalty implies. And I just think that it's real, it's real concerning when we don't make the distinction. That can be our downfall. So I'm gonna just put that out there. I'm gonna let it go on that. I don't want to do too much, But I'm not scripted. It's just things that pop into my mind too. That's the part of my normal program because I have things that function in my psyche that, like with anyone else, comes up and just has you like, you know what, man, that's crazy as shit, And it didn't really touch me like that up until the point that he asked, and I'm like to myself, why the fuck would I be reaching out to old boy? Now, don't get me wrong, I probably will tap in and call, just to say hey or whatever and see what he own. I might be in a collab with him and I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying be very careful about doing such things. And I even have to do that, you know what I mean? But I'm human and it's a journey. So to say the least, appreciate you giving me your time. And just moving forward, yeah, just take that into consideration. That ain't got nothing to do with you being solid or not being solid because you ain't tapped in. And I'm a grown man. I ain't got to tap in with shit. You know what I'm saying? But my family. And that's it. The same for you. Have a good one.